Hi everyone, it's Miss Stefan and I'm back today with part 2 of your lesson on George Washington Carver. Before we go back into the book, I want to take a minute to go over the notes page with you and then to go over what your final essay is going to look like that you need to turn in by Wednesday of next week. So as we continue reading the book today, I still want you to use the guiding questions as we're reading. You're always going to be thinking about question 1. What was the process of discovery like for George Washington Carver? Question 2. What are some of his inventions? Question 3. What is an example of one of his inventions that helped solve a problem or need of society? And I really want you to focus on this part about the problems and needs of society. We've been talking a lot how inventors are so important because they look at problems in their community and they use their inventions to try to fix those problems. So we saw that with Thomas Edison, and we're seeing that again with George Washington Carver. So please make sure you're paying attention to that. I also wanted to include a Venn diagram for you. This is a really, really good tool you could use when you're comparing and contrasting two people, two ideas, or anything. In one circle would be Thomas Edison. In your other circle would be George Washington Carver. In the middle, you would put your facts and details about ways both inventors were the same. That's the compare section. Then, on the outside of each circle, you would talk about contrast, the way that each inventor is different, and you would put facts and ideas that are specific to each inventor. If that's helpful to you, I just wanted to share it because that's an easy thing you could draw on your paper as you're taking your notes after you've already finished the videos and lessons, okay? So just to go over what the essay is going to look like, it's going to be a 3-paragraph essay. Paragraph 1 is going to be your introduction about both inventors, Thomas Edison and George Washington Carver. I want you to make sure to include the name of each inventor, at least one fact about each inventor, and a problem or need in society that inventor wanted to fix with an invention. In paragraph 2, this paragraph is going to be your compare paragraph, how the two inventors are the same. And in that paragraph, you need to include at least 2 ways the inventors are the same. In paragraph 3, this is going to be your paragraph about contrast, how the two inventors are different. And be sure to include at least 2 ways the inventors are different. And always, always, always put your conclusion sentence. Okay, I'm going to send a picture of this to all of your families via text. And then by next Wednesday, you have to make sure to send me your 3-paragraph essay. You could send it as a picture message, a DM on Instagram, or you could email it from your email or from your parents. Okay? So now that you have that, we're going to go back to the second part of our book on George Washington Carver. So as you know, yesterday we explored his childhood. He had a very difficult childhood growing up as a slave. His family was separated from him. He was someone who was very bright and really desired an education, but it was impossible for him to get one at that time because in the terrible history in the United States, Black people were not actually allowed to get an education at that point. But he didn't give up. He didn't let that stop him. He ended up finding a school that he could go to. And then we're going to continue his journey as he wants to go into college and what happens after he graduates. So I'll read with you. Later, Carver wanted to go to college. Many Black Americans still faced racism. One school would not let Carver in because he was Black, but he didn't give up. He became the first Black student at Iowa State College. He studied agriculture. And if you look, the book gives us some words to know. Racism, the belief that one group of people is better than another. And agriculture is the science of farming. And something we learned yesterday was that the rights of farmers was something that was very important to George Washington Carver. He wanted to constantly think about ways to use science to improve the lives of farmers. And we see this even as he enters college and has his interest in agriculture. 6 cool facts about Carver. Carver added Washington to his name because another George Carver lived in his town. And maybe he had some kind of idea that he might be famous one day. Number 1, Carver grew up on a farm with horses, cattle, honeybees, and wheat crop. He's always been a person who's interested in science and the outdoors, and this helped to shape his life even as he grew up and became a famous inventor. Number 2, as a boy, Carver helped people with their sick plants. They called him the plant doctor. So even as a child, he had these gifts and these interests. And this is something he was able to develop more as he grew up and then actually used to help other people. Next, the US Navy named 2 ships after Carver. And you're going to see as we read some of the great inventions that he created that changed the lives of people and made him a very famous inventor. Carver loved art. He made paint from berries. He tied twigs together for a brush. And 3 US presidents asked for Carver's advice on farming. So he was very, very important, and even the presidents of the United States leaned on him for help. So again, we see a new section in the book, and we have the heading right here, helping others. So we already know this whole next section is going to be about how his work and research helped other people. After college, Carver became a teacher. He worked at a school in Alabama called Tuskegee Institute. There, he did important work with plants. He found many new ways to use sweet potatoes and soybeans. He invented hundreds of new things, such as paints, plastic, and dyes. So right from the beginning of his career, right after college, he was already working, inventing things, using his knowledge about plants, and trying to find ways to help other people. And in your second read, you could go ahead and take your time looking through the pictures and exploring the captions more. He also wanted to help farmers. And just like we talked about yesterday, he really wanted to improve the rights and the livelihoods of Black people in America. And the fact that many Black people were sharecroppers and couldn't actually make a lot of profit off of all of the crops that they worked on growing is something that drove him to be better. He wanted to improve the lives of farmers and make their life more equitable. He built a classroom on a wagon. It was pulled by mules. He drove the wagon to nearby farms to teach about agriculture. So not only was he inventing things to help make farmers' lives better, but he was also going as often as he could out on this horse and buggy and going to farms and actually teaching people hands-on how to learn things so that they can make their lives better themselves. And we see the caption supports this. Most farmers couldn't come to Carver's classroom, right? Because he was far away, they had to spend their days working in their fields, but he didn't let that stop him. Carver wanted to bring his ideas to them. He was really committed and passionate about improving the world around him. And here we see some pictures. He was very famous for his inventions with peanuts. Carver thought that planting peanuts could help farmers too. Peanut plants would keep the soil healthy. Farmers could also sell this crop to earn more money. Carver had found more than 300 ways to use peanut plants. They could be turned into glue, medicine, gasoline, and even paper. And here we see in the caption, Carver said a massage with peanut oil could even help a sick person. The oil was sold in bottles like these. So we're really familiar today with peanuts as used in peanut butter. People eat them for snacks at parties, on crackers, things like that. But they actually have so many different uses, and they're something that's easy to grow. So he saw this as a way to help farmers make more money and also make their lives better. And now we see his good ideas. So we have a new heading here. Carver traveled. He gave speeches about farming. He spoke about peanuts. He also spoke about treating all people fairly. So like I mentioned earlier, he not only wanted to improve the lives of others through his inventions and through teaching them better ways about farmers, but he used his opportunity, his role as a public figure, and he used his voice to talk to other people about giving equal rights to everyone. In 1921, he spoke to the U.S. Congress. Some people in Congress didn't want to listen to a black man, but he had good ideas. Finally, Congress listened. They shared his ideas with others. And in his own words, I want to feel that my life has been of some service to my fellow man. So his whole life was driven by this idea about solving the problems and needs of others around him. And if you see at the bottom, like we saw in the Thomas Edison book as well, in this informational text, we have a timeline. And that helps us see what happened throughout his life. And you could take your time in the second read to see the important moments in his life in chronological order, in the order they happened. Hard work. Carver died in 1943. He was around 79 years old. Carver's hard work helped many people. His ideas helped poor farmers have better lives. His story shows the power of learning and helping others. And as you see here, he's honored in a statue. There's a George Washington Carver Museum at Tuskegee Institute. He was even honored on a postage stamp. Okay. And what in the world? These pictures show close-up views of items from George Washington Carver's time. This is kind of a fun activity you could do on your own in your second read. That just makes it kind of fun to look at some of the pictures and words and ideas about George Washington Carver that we read about. And again, at the end, we have our really key vocabulary words with some pictures to help you on your second read. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in to the lesson. I want you to make sure you do your second read of the book. When you're done reading through it, take your time the second time. You could listen to the audio or you try to read it on your own. Make sure you take your notes that go along with the guiding questions and make sure you're talking all about his important inventions and how he helped solve the problems and needs of society. And then I want to make sure you guys take the quiz at the very end, and I'll be checking out when you finish the book on Epic. For next week, by Wednesday, make sure you submit to me your 3-paragraph essay comparing and contrasting Thomas Edison and George Washington Carver. If you have any questions or concerns, call, text, Zoom meeting, anything you need. I'll be here to answer it, and I look forward to seeing what you guys write.